with me Representative Arthur Handy. Art, why don't you introduce yourself rather than my going through your resume and what you do and your role in the legislature, I should say.
Sure. Well, that's basically I'm a state representative from Cranston. I'm also the chair of the House Environment and Natural Resources Committee, and always like to think of myself as somebody that's good advocate for a lot of the important energy efficiency, renewable energy, and environmental pieces of legislation that come before us.
Well, that takes me to my first question to you, Art, is, or I'm going to call you Art, not Representative Handy. You've attended these events before in the past.
Yes.
What impact or influence does a day like this have, or the people have, on the legislation that you and your committee are trying to formulate?
Well, I'd say there are two key things. One is it helps somebody like me have a better sense of what's happening at the federal level and knowing how I should react to that. In other words, is there a gap that we need to fill at the state level? Is there something happening at the federal level that preempts us from doing something at the state level? So there's that front. But I think even more importantly is actually the ability to interact with a lot of people around the state that I might not get to see every day or every week or even every year outside of these types of events. So getting a chance to sit down at a table, have a chat with somebody from the solar panel manufacturing sector, for instance, or somebody like Jeff Flath with eNow that does a lot of really interesting stuff with solar on vehicles, or somebody like you that does building technology questions around architecture and things like that. I think this event actually provides that to me. It's actually probably as valuable as the programming that we get here.
I would agree with that. Let me ask you this. You mentioned about the, I don't know if you used the word gap, but the connection between the federal government, the state government, and the local government. Where do you see that relationship or the lack of relationship going in the future in terms of your own House committee's interests?
Well, as human beings, we tend to think in very short-term steps, I suppose, and maybe we need to try to take a step back and recognize that things take time and bad things can go away, for lack of a better way to cloudily answer your question on one side of it. But I am very anxious and concerned about potentially backsliding on some of the progress that we've made in the state due to actions maybe happening at the national level. And I think we want to try to step into those. Also, we can potentially be a leader, even if we don't. One of the things I like to talk about when we talked about climate change and the fact that we're a very small state, obviously, in geography, still 1 million plus people though, but on a global scale of 7 billion people, can we really affect climate change? That's the kind of argument I might get back. But in the end, by setting, leading, by example, really, taking our step, putting a best foot forward on trying to address climate change in our own state, I think it helps to lead things across the country and hopefully globally too. And that's the kind of place I'd look for. So whether it's carbon pricing or energy efficiency standards for appliances, renewable energy standards and portfolio standards, those are the kinds of things I think where we can hopefully at least influence the national dialogue and maybe even indirectly the international dialogue.
I didn't have a chance to do this before, but I want to thank you for supporting the Green Buildings Act on the floor of the House when the bill came up for a vote. I know the bill went to the House Finance Committee, didn't go to your committee, and I'm speaking about the amendments to the Green Buildings Act, which included LEED for Neighborhood Development and SITES, which is a Sustainable Sites Initiative. I'm saying this for the benefit of the global audience right now, which is historic because Rhode Island is the first state in the country to adopt those two standards, high-performance green building standards, as public policy. So I do wish to thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Well, I know I wasn't the sponsor on that one. I know, however, I've been an advocate for it, a champion for it, I hope, at least over the years that we've had it in, and I think we're probably still slow to come to the table, even if we are the first, as far as I'm concerned on these type of things.
Well, I think the tortoise was slow, too.
True. Still won the race, though.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Same here.